The ban list is here, and Snake Eye is officially dead. Or is it? Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're taking a look at a post-ban list for Snake Eyes, or more specifically, the Snake Eye slop that everyone is peddling. And I am going to quickly tell you that this is a basically card-for-card list from the most recent WCQ played by RJay, the number 2 player in the world, or at least they placed number 2, number 1 in Asia, and there is one card that has changed. Literally one card. And it's Birch for Oak. That's it. That's the only card that changed. And let me tell you, you know what? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to spoil the surprise. But how much does the Oak ban actually matter? That's what we're going to find out today on today's episode. Let's just quickly go through the card by card. This is a very cool list as well. I'm not smart enough to come up with the lines and stuff like this, but this worked beautifully. Start off with the Snake Eye stuff: Ash, Birch, Poplar, Field Spell in Divine Temple, as well as the OSS, and the 2 bricks in here in Flomberg and Snake Eye Diabellstar. These 2 are just like hard bricks. You never want to see them. Everything else pretty much is like okay to see, like Temple is fine to see and stuff like that. So that's it for the Snake Eye stuff. We're also, of course, playing the 3 Diabellstar as well as the 1 as well as the 1 Wanted. So yeah, pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory in that regard. Next up, we have the Snake Eye stuff. We're playing the 1 Lacrima, the 2 Engraver, and 2 Tracked. 2 Tracked seems a bit weird, but overall, like it's basically like the 40th card in here. It's just another way to get your Fiendsmith stuff online. And then, of course, we are playing the 1 Lurie as well. We're not playing the Trap. The reason for this is because it is another dead card in your hand, and it ends up not really doing anything unless you already have your Fiendsmith engine online. But it is nice. There are a lot of times where, like, you normal summon Lacrima, and that's kind of all you're getting is like a Lacrima into Requiem sequence. And so you have just the Lacrima Requiem engrave, and being able to do that and send the Paradise is nice. But for the most part, it is just kind of like a dead card and shows up in your hand more often than it doesn't. Yeah, so that's it for that. We're also playing the Millennium package, which, if you don't know, this package is absolutely insane. At this point, I think everyone understands how powerful this is. But Sangajin grabs us the Golem, which grabs us the Temple, which then allows us to put 2 into the back row in order to go into the Doomed Dragon. And with Sangajin being an 8 and the Doomed Dragon being an 8, you can go into the Zombie Vampire, all without taking up your normal summon, all without really doing anything except for, like, maybe potentially losing to Droll, but even that isn't necessarily a loss condition, as well as putting multiple bodies onto the field and giving you Zombie Vampire, which is such an insane card, more so than you probably think. This is genuinely what they should have banned, and I'm sad that they didn't. But Zombie Vampire not only allows you to potentially hit something like a Snake Eye Ash or a Diabellstar to get that engine online, you also can hit potentially a Fiendsmith engine as well, potentially even from your opponent, but most importantly, it tells you what your opponent is playing. That is, I think, the biggest boon to this, is that, hey, my opponent has a thing, I now know what that thing is, I can cater my board to specifically that. Being able to go Zombie Vampire and realize that the opponent is on Blue Eyes and make Desiree as opposed to something like a D Wave King is way nice. Though, I guess both would be nice anyway. But you get my point, right? Just like being able to have specifically tailored boards to the deck that you're playing against is very solid. Anyway, that's basically it. And that is more or less it for the engines. The rest is just hand traps / non-engine, right? We're playing 3 Droll. Droll is very good in this deck in particular because you don't really need to play with your with like a bunch of searches. A lot of your deck can just function without the searches, and you just special summon from deck, or you like go from there, which means that you can Droll yourself under something like Maxi or Fualos or what have you, and still be off to the races, not really caring too much. So that's one of the big boons to it. Not only does it hurt the opponent, it also helps you. On top of that, we're playing a bunch of crossout targets with the 1 Fualos, the 1 Nibiru, and the 1 Infip, all for crossout, as well as they're just generally good. On top of that, we're of course playing the Maxi, Ash, and Called By, and that is it. The only other non-engine that we are playing is the Triple Tack, and we're playing 2 of that. Also, notably, we are playing the 1-for-1 and the Bonfire. Forgot to mention that. These just get us into the Snake Eye stuff. As for the extra deck, it's pretty simple. We're playing the 1 Lacrima, the 1 Desiree, and for the Fiendsmith fusions, as well as the 1 Necroquip in there as well, and then the previously mentioned Doom Dragon. 2 Xyz and Wave King Caesar and Zombie Vampire. Very, very powerful. And then a bunch of Link monsters, Link Karibo, Requiem, Nightmare Phoenix. This seems strange, but I'll explain why in a second. The IP Masquerena, the SP Little Knight, Moon, Sequence, Promethean Princess, and Apollosa. So, first of all, we're not playing Agnum Day, and the reason for that is because we're playing instead Phoenix. Phoenix is a necessary kind of inclusion because it's a fire monster, so you can link off the Promethean Princess into that said fire monster. And it has another effect, which I'm sure you are aware about, where code-linked monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle, which means you put it underneath the Apollosa, and Apo now can't be walked over, making it so much more annoying to deal with. That's basically the point for it. Yeah, it's very annoying. Let's hop into some replays. Let me show you how this deck works. Alright, so here we are going first, and this hand is very stacked. Let's see what we can actually accomplish here. We're going to start off here with the Millennium cards in Sengajin. So Sengajin is going to grab up the Golem here, and we're going to use the Golem in order to put it into the, to use it to grab up Temple as well. Temple is then going to put the 2 Sengajin, the one from the hand and the one from the deck, and then ready to go into the Doomed Dragon. Doomed Dragon into the Zombie Vampire along with the other Sengajin, and then activate the Zombie Vampire. Now, this, again, provides us valuable information in knowing what our opponent is playing, and as you can see, we milled the True Light, which is very funny. Sorry. And we also hit a Sage, so I'm going to steal their Sage, even though I could have grabbed one of my own monsters. And now we can do the entire Fiendsmith line. Hip Hip Hooray. Now we go into Requiem, and yada yada. You get the point, right? Also, on top of that, if we had hit something like a Snake Eye Ash, or a Snake Eye Poplar, or something else along those lines, even if we had hit our own Fiendsmith cards, we could have done that as well, and then kept a few additional monsters, but not really that important. We're going to go into our sequence off of the Engraver, activate the effect. We're going to shuffle back the 2 in order to go, or sorry, the 3 in order to go into the Desiree. The reason I go into Desiree is because my opponent hasn't activated any hand traps, meaning likely what's in hand is something like a Drill Beam. So I'm kind of, you know, making sure that we can contest a Drill Beam, hence why we make the Desiree. Anyway, now we can go for the Diabell Star that we had in hand. This was all, mind you, off of 1.5 cards. As long as it was a monster in hand, which we still have 2, and the Sengajin. All of this up until this point, minus the Diabell Star. 10 out of 10, no notes. Anyway, out comes Snake Eye Ash. Ash is going to grab Poplar. Poplar is going to special summon it. We're going to grab the Temple. Now, nothing has changed at this point. There is no change in anything that has happened from Banlist till now. Keep that in mind. And now we get to go Atha. We're going to go for the Poplar. Poplar is going to put itself back into the back row, and then we're going to go for the Sequence to attach the Desiree, and now we can go for the Oak in order to grab up the Flomberg. We're also going to then bring out our other monster as well, and then go into IP Masquerena, and then put 2 additional bodies onto our field. We're then going to use that IP Masquerena to go into Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess is going to put the Flomberg back onto the field, and then we're going to link off into the Phoenix. Now we can use the Flomberg in order to put the IP Masquerena into the back row and pass the turn. So, let's talk about what we just accomplished here. We have the Apollosa that can't be walked over by battle and has 3 negates. We have the Desiree, which is a negate as well. We have the Flomberg in order to put the Masquerena back onto the field. Or the Temple can also do the same thing, and IP Masquerena can go into the SP Little Knight as a banish, as well as giving us another co-linked monster with the Nightmare Phoenix, which is kind of funny. On top of that, we can also put additional bodies onto our field via the Flomberg effect. We have all of the Fiendsmith stuff in Grave. We have the follow-up of the OSS as well, because we still have Birch in deck, and then we have 2 hand traps in hand. That's pretty expected. Anyway, my opponent just, like, sets 2 and passes. I think they are just trying to get me to activate a thing I didn't activate in the main phase, and they just concede there. Understandable. That was a nasty board. Alright, now here we are actually going second. Let's see what we can accomplish with this. Which we do have a fairly decent hand. My opponent activates the Primate Lordly Load, which we will promptly Ash. I don't want to have to contest the Primate cards. They are too powerful. So I'm just going to try and not. My opponent reveals that they are on the Fiendsmith stuff, and I'm like, okay, sure. So it's Fiendsmith Primate, which is very beatable. So anyway, my opponent is going to go into all of the Fiendsmith line. They're going to go yada yada. You've seen all of this before, except for the fact that I'm actually lying to you. They're going into the Necroquip because they want to go into the Desiree. Or, sorry, not Desiree. Wave King Caesar. So out comes the Wave King Caesar, and then they special summon the Cyframe Driver here, and it's like, oh wow, if I just had Nib, you just lose there. Now, I didn't, but like, wow, you played terribly. That's all. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. However, this obviously tells me that this is a Drill Beam set, so now we can just use the triple tack to contest that. Anyway, we draw Diabellstar, which is pretty nice. I'm going to immediately go into our, or I'm going to activate our Golem. The opponent immediately activates their Lacrima here, which is not necessarily a bad idea, but it is just something of note. They're going to go then for the Requiem. Requiem is going to summon out the Lacrima. Lacrima effect is going to then send the Paradise, which allows me to go for the triple tack, which just contests the Drill Beam. That's all that this is doing, but I did attempt to take to deal with the DD Wave King. Now, that doesn't really matter, and I'll figure this out later, but the Millennium cards are kind of stupid. Anyway, we're going to normal summon out our Lacrima. Lacrima is going to go into the Requiem, and Requiem is going to summon out Engraver, which they allow, which means that they're going to use the Paradise here, which is kind of silly. I don't know why we didn't just contest it with the Wave King Caesar, because, well, you'll see why in a second. Anyway, they're going to go for the Desiree, and, well, I'll just do my Millennium stuff, because yeah, DD Wave King Caesar specifically says, when a spell, trap card, or monster effect is activated, that includes an effect that special summons a monster, you can detach material to negate the activation. Notably, the effect of all of the Millennium monsters places them face up, and then they are activating their effect, not starting a spell trap activation. It is the activation of a face-up continuous effect that is being applied. That's not the correct terminology, but basically we're not activating a spell trap card. We are using the effect of a face-up spell trap card. That's more or less how to explain it. But basically, yeah, this guy can't do anything. And so because of that, we do go for the Wedju Temple into the Sengajin, and Sengajin is going to grab up the second Sengajin, and then we're going to do that in order to go into the DD Wave King, or, no, sorry, into the Doom Dragon, and just put that guy into the back row. Cool, now we do full combo, and I still have Crossout Designator in hand for a potential Nibiru. There goes Nibiru. Tragic, but it's fine. We're going to go for the Diabellstar here, and we are going to then activate the effect of our Snake Eye, which we milled, which is something of note, right? That's one of the good things. There was a previous build not too long ago that was using 3 of this in order to, yeah, like, you would mill it off of Zombie Vamp, but, like, it doesn't matter. That's not what matters. Anyway, this doesn't do what my opponent thinks it does, because we can still special summon, or we can still search with Palmar, and they realize that. So, yeah, good game. Unless it was specifically Nibiru in my opponent's hand, there was no world in which they were getting out of that alive. Good game? Alright, here we are once again going first, and wow, look at this hand. We're going to start off here with the Millennium Songajin. Songajin is going to promptly be Ashed, to which I will just activate my 1-for-1, pitching the Songajin, and my opponent will scoop it up. There were a lot of games that were like this, where it was basically the opponent sees that they do not have the hand traps necessary to stop my full engine, and just concede on the spot. So, oops. I'm going to show you another one of those such games, because this hand does not look very good, but let me show you what actually ends up happening due to how insane this deck actually is. So we're going to start off here with the Requiem. We did end up drawing the Birch, but guess what? If this was Oak, it wouldn't have changed anything, because we're still normal summoning the Lurie every time there. We're going to go into the Lacrima. Lacrima is going to then go into the Engraver, and I am going to promptly activate the Maxi here. This may seem strange, but again, I'm concerned about potentially, like, dying. I need to draw into something here. If I just, like, pass, I just lose. I draw into Ash here, and I do elect to Ash this. 2 reasons. 1, I don't want them to get a potential, like, additional Bestial to deal with more of my Fiendsmith stuff. And 2, I'm planning on using my triple tack to draw cards, which means that if they do have Ash, this would just be offline on the following turn because of my called by. So that is my idea there, is like, I might as well use this. I don't want them to get another Bestial. I don't want them to potentially get like a Tenpai card as well. And so that's the general game plan here. I'm then going to go into the Necro Equip as well, just because now if my opponent, activates a hand trap, we have something that we can do with the Necro Equip by drawing an additional card. We're going to draw 2 cards here, which is very, very good. Because guess what? Yeah, Sengajin does the whole combo. Yeah, it just does everything. My opponent's going to droll here, which is kind of silly. I don't know why we didn't droll on the +2, but we didn't, which is a choice. Didn't matter. We had the Cold Buy, and now we get to draw a card. And guess what we draw? Yep, that's right. Diabellstar. Hip hip hooray. This game was very good. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're gonna put the Bestial Magma into the back row and then go into the Zombie Vampire. Zombie Vampire is going to reveal that my opponent is playing Bestial Fiendsmith. So, not too unexpected there. My opponent goes for the Veiler on the Poplar, which is fine, because now we just get to go into the full Fiendsmith line anyway, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. We're going to go put the Birch back into the back row and then go into the Sequence. We're going to activate the Sequence effect, and we're going to shuffle back 2 in order to go into the Lacrima, and we're going to activate the Lacrima effect, bringing back our guy in order to then use Tract, because I want to go into the into Desiree, because I think it's a little bit better here, just given the fact that like they're on 2 guards as well. So we're going to do that, and then also out comes Diabellstar. I'm pretty sure here, yep, there it is. There's the scoop. Yeah, the Birch didn't matter. Wow, who would have guessed? That's all. Also, those draws were insane. Did you see that? That was nasty. That was stupid. Why was I able to draw like that? Alright, here we are, once again, going first. And this one actually was one of the first games that I played, so I was still remembering how to play this game and how to play this deck. Anyway, we're going to go Ash into Poplar, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to show you this, because this combo does not change with Oak being banned. So I still get to do the whole thing, basically with anything. So yeah, we also did end up seeing the Wedju Temple, so we're going to go for the Wedju Temple, putting the Droll into the back row, and then out comes the, I used the Oak, or the Ash here, to go into Flomberg. Sometimes you would go into Oak here as well, but here in particular, I would have gone Flomberg anyway, and the reason for that is because it would punish a potential Nibiru. So I can kind of keep this on board as like a potential Nibiru insulation, and that's generally the plan. Now we go into the Zombie Vampire. We're going to activate the effect of the Zombie Vampire, milling a whole bunch of cards, and revealing that my opponent is on Millennium Primite, which is interesting. I summon out the Snake Eye Diabellstar, and then go into the Moon. Moon effect is going to, Moon is then going to pivot into the Requiem, and Requiem into the full Fiendsmith line. Hip hip hooray! We're so happy that Fiendsmith is still in the game, in this capacity. Can we just ban Moon? Like, I don't mind if Fiendsmith is like a dedicated strategy where your idea is to play Fiendsmith and to get to a Light Fiend, but Moon just allows it to be too generic, and it's very frustrating. Anyway, out comes the Engraver. We're going to add the Engraver to the hand because we're just going to use the Engraver in order to go into Apo, because we're going to go Tract into Lurie, pitch, summon back, and go from there. Here we're going to go for the IP Masquerena, and then we're going to activate the effect of the Lacrima to burn for 12, and then use all of those to go into the Apollosa. Now we can activate the Flomberg in order to put the IP Masquerena into the back row, and now we can put the Diabell from Grave into the back row as well, and then put this guy onto the field. Now, I did a bit of a goof, as I mentioned previously, because I don't actually have anything that I can do from this point. And that is because I put Snake Eye Ash into the back row, instead of keeping 2 monsters in the grave. What I could have done is put Doomed Dragon into the back row off of the effect of the Snake Eye Diabellstar, and still put it onto the field, and then gone for the Nightmare Phoenix. And then the Phoenix could convert into the Promethean, or something else of that nature. I could have also gone for like an SP Little Knight into a Promethean, or something else of said nature, and then put like the Flomberg onto the field, and then go into like Phoenix. There's a lot that I could have done there, but I just goofed. And then I ended on this. So it's still like okay, but it definitely could have been better, and that's the point. Anyway, yeah, they go for the Dimensional Fissure. Out comes Heart. I negate with Apo. Out comes Singajin. I negate with Apo. Out comes the Onk, and I'm like, sure. Nothing you can really do about that, because guess what? I can just go into the SP Little Knight. My opponent activates the effect. I attempt to special summon. They negate. I go special summon anyway. I activate the effect of the IP, or the IP to go into the SP. SP banishes. They set a card, and guess what? The game is basically over. I can do a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't really matter that they have the Floodgate on the field, because I still have, like, Engraver and stuff like that engrave anyway, and I can just, like, proceed to combat pretty effectively here. So, good game. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, this deck didn't change at all. I wish it did. I genuinely wish it did. I wish the Oak ban mattered, or at least it felt like it mattered, because it didn't seem like anything changed. This deck still does the same thing, still puts out the same amount of bodies, still puts out the same amount of end boards, and pretty much doesn't change in any regard, with the change from Oak to Birch, or literally anything else. The problem was never the Snake Eye cards. Not in this version of the build. The problem was not the fact that the Snake Eye cards did stuff. The problem was that the Millennium cards were too advantageous, and the Fiendsmith stuff was too generic, meaning that anything that put out a lot of bodies, which there's a lot of at this point in Yu-Gi-Oh!, you could just pivot into the Fiendsmith stuff. And also Apo exists. Me and my homies hate this card. Gosh, this card is so stupid. It's genuinely insane how powerful this card is at just invalidating so many plays. Like you saw in that last game, it was just like, no, no. And then all of their plays were done. They just had like nothing left. It's like, well, I guess I activate the Ankh that I already had in hand, but even that doesn't really do anything. 10 out of 10. That being said, what would you actually do to fix this deck? To like actually hit it without breaking the bank on Konami's perspective? It's one card. It's Zombie Vampire. It's this card. This card genuinely solves so many issues with its ban. Because now you can't actually pivot the Snake or the Millennium cards into additional engine. Like, for example, the Snake Eye engine or the Fiendsmith engine. Technically speaking, you could still pivot them into the Snake Eye or into the Fiendsmith engine, but that's where the second ban comes in and you ban Moon. Those two things, I think, genuinely stop this deck as a whole from working. You would have to genuinely change the way that it worked. And the thing is, it's not like Snake Eye has other builds that make it powerful. The Snake Eye, like, Fire King stuff is fine. It's very playable. Right? But it's not like the end-all be-all. So all I have to say is, like, yeah, this deck, it didn't actually do anything. Like, none of the changes actually mattered. Also, Golem to 1 is such a stupid limit. It doesn't do anything. It kind of hits, like, Crystron, I guess, that plays Millennium, but you could also just play more copies of the field spell. So, you can't actually stop the Millennium stuff unless you hit specifically Sangajin or multiple other cards. And Sangajin. So, I don't know. It's just silly. Gosh, this ban list was so sad. It was so sad, dude. That's all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy it. If you did, like us very much, so appreciate it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.